Our training here at Aihua is a 7 to 10 day training program. We try to cover a wide array of topics to give you the best foundation possible going into your classes. For those of you who are trained teachers, then topics like classroom management or discipline won't be very new to you, but teaching ESL and teaching the Aihua way will be new to you.
We do this with a series of demo classes which will be shown to you by us, the training team, and also you'll have a chance to participate in them as well. So you'll feel confident that you know how we want you to teach in the classroom.
Those of you who have no experience in the classroom, we do our very best to give you the best foundation possible going into your classes. Of course, you learn with experience, but introductory training is there to help you get through especially the first few weeks of classes.
It's an intensive training where you'll get a lot of information, but we will do it in such a way that it will be very hands-on, so you'll have a chance to actually practice all of the techniques that we're going to teach you in the training.
You need to be focused, prepared, and ready to learn during training. The amount of effort that you put into training will directly impact how much you take out of training.
The training team are here to help you with any queries or concerns that you might have. We're here to give you ideas about activities and games, help you with discipline issues or classroom management issues. We're here to help you become the best teacher that you can be.
I remember from the first day of training we had a bunch of icebreaker games because we're all new people and we don't know each other that well, so we had all these icebreaker games so that we could get to know each other, and they also doubled as warmer games for our lessons later on. After that we had a foreign language demo lesson. We actually learned all of these new words and phrases in Russian to try to see what it's like to be a student who's learning a foreign language in the foreign language, so that we can kind of put ourselves in the mindset of one of our students. After that we made, it was our first experience coming up with trying to write a lesson plan. And then finally we learned a little about reward systems and discipline. Reward systems are just basically how to motivate your students to do the things that you want to do, and discipline is just when it doesn't go right, how you get your students back on track.
Day 2 of training we covered a lot of topics. One of them is the classroom management, where we got the opportunity to look at some of the older foreign teachers' classes on video. We were able to mention things we saw that they did that was very good, and also things they could improve on. We also saw different gestures, we learned about rapport that you have to build, board work, and also the classroom environment. Okay, so the last part of Day 2's training is one of the most important parts. It's teaching the songs, because that helps the students as well with their fluency and pronunciation with some of the words. We got to demo the songs in groups, which was a lot of fun. It was the first demo we ever did during training, but it was so comfortable because our group actually enjoyed it and we helped each other. So you never felt like pressure or anything.
On the third day of training we focused on younger learners and the books that we use for the young students at Aihua who are around 3 or 4 years old. This was another fun and interactive training session where we not only learnt about the books but also how to incorporate different games in the classroom. We also learnt how to build a rapport with the students by being friendly and interacting with them, and also incorporating them in the classroom, as well as added value language such as phonics and nursery rhymes, and teaching them basics like colours and shapes. On day 3 we also did our own lesson plans and did demos in front of our peers. This was a little scary but really good because it helped us to just break the ice. It also gave us a lot more confidence and helped us to be comfortable in the classroom.
Day 4 of our introductory training, we moved on to primary school level and middle school level students, and the books that we use at Aihua to teach these students. The training was primarily focused on lesson planning and the different lessons we use to teach things like song lessons, reading lessons, grammar lessons, and projects and so forth. At the end of the day, we prepared our own detailed lesson plans in groups, and we got individual feedback on these. My experience before training, I had no experience. I was kind of terrified of lesson planning, but after the training it was a lot clearer what we had to do, and now it's like second nature.
The fifth day of training was broken into two parts. The first part, we talked about the Elysium course, which is new to Aihua. The Elysium course teaches broader concepts that we call values, values such as bravery or envy. And because these can be really hard to teach, the trainers gave us some creative examples on how they have been taught in the past. The second half of the day, we focused on a book that teaches complex grammar structures for our older and more advanced students. The trainers went through different techniques and resources we can use to teach those, because it is hard to teach grammar as a native English speaker. Some of the techniques involve using timelines for the present, past, and future tenses, and also gradient scales.
We took all that we learned in that 6 days of training and we had to put it into a demo class. So we had to teach our own demo class of about 15 to 20 minutes in front of all the other foreign teachers. And afterwards they gave us feedback on what we could have done differently in our demo class and also what we did well. So in my demo class I had to teach song, and just to get them to learn the song, we played a lot of games, tried to make it as fun as possible for them. I was so nervous before the class, but once it started, everything just went flowing, and afterwards it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
On day 7 of training, we did our demos, which was quite nervous, even for me as a trained teacher, second level teacher, but they were really useful to kind of get at any nerves or jitters we had. We also learned how to use WeChat, and also how to use technology in our classes, like the software used for our books, PowerPoints and the projectors that we have in all our classrooms. The last thing we did on day 7 of training was how to work with your CT, your Chinese teacher in the classroom. Coming from Ireland, I had never actually taught with another teacher full time in my classroom, so I had different expectations. But in this part of training, we learned how to work as a team together.
It was very intensive and there was a lot of information to take in, but it was also really practical, and we got to practice doing lesson plans, practice our demos and teaching in front of a class, so that was really helpful.
What we learned in training was, overall, it was very dense. There was a lot of it, but all of it, pretty much all of it, was practical and could easily be applied to what you do on the ground in the classroom.
My overall experience in training was very positive. Before I started training, I was so scared and I could not imagine myself as a teacher. I could not imagine myself in the classroom, but afterwards I felt a lot more comfortable.
I've been here for 2 months and the training really helped me to prepare my lessons and get the kids very active in class.
Training really helped me to get to grips with the different age groups, but also things like how to prepare the classroom and how to use games in an effective way.
It laid a good foundation of the basics that we would need to know for our first class, from building a rapport with the students, getting involved, and also just where and how to begin.
The best advice I took from training was to play to your strengths in the classroom. However you are in class is going to set the tone for how your classes are going to play out through the rest of the term, and so you want to be comfortable in your class as well as make your kids comfortable.
There was a lot of demos that our trainers did for us, so got a lot of inspiration about activities and games to try with the students. But the best advice I got from the training was not to be too hard on yourself. You're only starting off, and that the most important things the first few days of teaching is that the students have fun and that they're very comfortable with you as their teacher.
The best advice that I got from training was definitely to have a well-structured lesson plan, because with that lesson plan it gives you what you're going to teach and how you're going to teach it.
I think the best advice that I got from training was to not be too hard on myself. As a new teacher, or even a teacher who has some experience, it's so easy to kind of get lost in a new country and new things and feel like you're failing. But yeah, so if I could give any advice to anybody else, it would be just to not be too hard on yourself, give yourself another chance, and tomorrow will probably be better.
In terms of professional development outside of the classroom, you'll be asked to do some peer observations. So you will watch your colleagues and try to get some new ideas for your own lesson plans.
In the first term, there's an additional 8 weeks of training, which I found really useful because in introductory training, you learn everything in such a short amount of time, and it's kind of a slow refresher of what you've already learned, and you can bring more to the table because you have some experience and you can turn around and then apply the things you're remembering or just learning again for the first time to your classes.
If I have one piece of advice for you guys, it's not to feel overwhelmed during or after introductory training. It's intense. We understand that it's a lot of information, but you just need to be focused, do a good job, always ask for help when you need it, and you'd be amazed at how much you remember when you actually get into the classroom setting. It's a really excellent way to get to know your colleagues, to get to know the books that we teach, and to get a hands-on experience in how we teach the Aihua way.